It's gonna be terrible out there. They're gonna make fun of you.
You're such a mess.
Awful. You should just
Why are you even going?
You're gonna make a mess out of everything.
You're gonna be awkward. It's gonna be embarrassing.
Look at that attitude.
You're not gonna have any idea what to say.
You're so ugly.
No one wants to see you there.
Your ugly. Terrible.
Your scars aren't getting any better.
You don't have anything
Your
to wear.
skin
You need
is
to
looking
eat
horrible.
You're such a mess. You need to get it together.
Why can't you just be normal?
Just look normal.
You're not funny.
You always take jokes too far.
You're boring. You're worthless. In the first couple of videos I ever made, I talked about how to know if you're struggling with self-worth and what to do to start repairing your idea of self-worth. But what I don't talk about enough on this channel is that my own struggle with self-worth is what brought me to making this channel and creating all these videos in the first place. So whether you have a low self-worth or a high sense of self-worth, regardless of how you feel, that idea and that concept of your self-worth is at the center of everything that we do. And you might have certain things, certain talents or skills that you feel like you have a really high amount of self-worth in, and you get a lot of self-worth out of being skilled in those areas. And then you can have parts of yourself where you know you're kind of slacking or you don't feel like you have it all together. And that kind of creates an idea of low self-worth in those particular areas as well. There was actually a 2001 psychological review that was written called The Contingencies of Self-Worth, and it was written by Jennifer Crocker and Connie T. Wolfe, and what they discovered in this study was that your sense of self-esteem or self-worth rises and falls in relation to your sense of self-esteem in certain domains or areas. And what they mean by this is that there's certain stakes, certain areas of yourself that we find ourselves, really good at, places that we really succeed in, and because of those things, we can have a high sense of self-worth in those ideas. Conversely, if everyone around us is telling us that we need to be really fit and we need to be an athlete, and that's not something that we get joy out of, it's not something that we're good at, but it's what we're being told is important, that can create a low sense of self-worth, because you are being told that this is what it takes to be a good person, this is what it takes to be valued, and in that one arena, you aren't providing value, or you're not kind of showing that to everyone around you. I hope that makes sense, but if that part was confusing, let me know in the comments below, and I'll be sure to explain it a little better in a pinned comment. And what does that mean? Well, we have to think about something that's core to all of us, and that is our sense of identity. So whether you see yourself as an activist, a philanthropist, a scholar, we all have that in common, that we have these ideas of what makes us up as a person and what makes us interesting in who we are. And how you identify and how you see yourself is the exact same thing as the stakes that determine your self-worth. So in that same report, The Contingencies of Self-Worth, they talked about the stakes or the domains that you are in contributing to your idea of self-worth. And those ideas and those stakes that are important to you have to have something to do with your identity, right? If you identify as an activist and you have all these ideas about, what you aspire to be, the effect that you want to have on the world, but then other people say that you're not that great at the guitar, that doesn't really mean anything to you. So other people saying that you're not good at something that you don't want to be good at isn't really going to faze you. But if you are an activist and people are saying that, your ideas are terrible, that you're not going to have any sort of impact on the community, that you're wrong about a lot of things, that's going to hurt you, because that is the stake, that's the domain where you place that value. It's where you get your idea of self-worth. That's why a lot of artists or a lot of creative people can sometimes create this amazing, wonderful work that gets written about and talked about, but they often feel like their next work then isn't going to measure up to it. And so regardless of what you've been able to create in the past, if you constantly feel like you are going to be a failure or your next work isn't going to measure up to the one success that you had, that's still going to affect your identity and your sense of self-worth. And that's why we can see so many really incredibly talented individuals still harping on themselves and still being really down on themselves, because they're not able to see that they really were successful in that one domain. So if what your stakes are in is how many times you go to the gym, you get too concerned with not being good enough because you're not fit enough. If your stakes are in being an incredible, successful business person and you're not bringing enough profit in that month, you can feel terrible. You can feel completely not successful enough or not like you're making enough profit, even though it could just be a normal up and down that your industry faces on a month-to-month basis. So when you really think about what's central to all of these different ideas, it's what makes you enough, what makes you good enough, and what makes you okay enough to continue on a day-to-day basis and to be the person that you are and to put yourself out there. Sometimes we feel like we need to be good enough just to exist or just to put our name out there or just to join a new group of friends. You know, we feel like we need to have some sort of clout or something behind us, some sort of weight to our name just to exist. Everything we do comes down to finding this sense of validity within ourselves and making sure that we are good enough. Whatever good enough ends up meaning to us. And what's crazy is that we can design entire lives around what our ideas are of being good enough. You know, if we had models and people that we respected in our lives that looked a certain way, then we can create our entire life around looking that same way and maintaining that same image. If you feel like you need to be published and in this academic world to be good enough, then you can spend your entire life, you know, in school, studying, researching, and working on getting published and getting your findings out there. But it's crazy when we think about how much of our identity comes out of proving to other people that we are good enough. And our identity is what creates our day-to-day choices, and our day-to-day choices is what creates who we are in the long term and creates our habits. And it really is all intertwined within one another. What's also interesting about this is that we're all having the same internal dialogue, right? We're all trying to feel good enough, feel worthy enough, feel like we deserve good things, and we're all trying to convince ourselves of that. But the ways that we do that is different. You know, some people feel like they need to be dedicated to their family and give to other people and kind of be this savior type of person to be good enough. Some people feel like they need to, you know, never give back to themselves and only take care of other people to be good enough. We all have our own different ideas of what this looks like, but we're all kind of going through this same thought process and the same thing. We're searching for this sense of self and this sense of validity in being ourselves, and we're searching for this sense of acceptance. So we end up localizing experience and this entire thought process into one specific thing. Like I mentioned before, it's the gym, it's money, it's academics, it's awards, it's recognition. It could be a myriad of things, but it's that idea that we're localizing our need for worthiness and our need for being good enough into a certain area that we then chase after and design our lives around. And it can be dangerous, and I do this too, so I know firsthand of, you know, taking what you want in life and making those goals, but then placing so much emphasis on that if you weren't to meet those goals, you are all of a sudden not good enough. You all of a sudden have no talent, no skills, no hope of ever becoming successful because you weren't able to meet those small short-term goals that you set for yourself. And that's so damaging, because when you've wrapped up your sense of self-worth and your sense of identity into, you know, reaching X amount of followers on YouTube or X amount of followers on Instagram, that becomes really damaging, and you end up looking for evidence of whether your self-worth should be low or high based on what you see around you. So, you know, if you feel like you're not doing things that's in the most healthy way for you, but you're getting praised online or getting recognition from thousands of people, you can feel like maybe you should just keep doing that, and maybe it doesn't matter that it's not healthy because you're getting that worthiness and that recognition that you're looking for. However, in the same way, if you are also looking for someone else to give you that sense of self-worth, then no matter whether you achieve your small-term goals or not, you're going to end up changing those goals and still placing that idea of self-worth in something that you have to achieve and something that you have to work towards. And what that idea is, what that goal looks like, is going to shapeshift over time, but you're still going to be convincing yourself that you aren't worthy inherently. You're going to tell yourself that you need to achieve something to feel worthy, and that is only going to last for a split second, because then it's on to the next thing, it's on to the bigger goal, it's on to proving to yourself proving yourself one more time and over again. And I know that all of this sounds really depressing and it kind of sounds like it's a huge trap and there's nothing we can do, but honestly, it's really good to know that all of this stems out of our identity and out of our domains that we place importance in, because your sense of identity can come from anywhere. Something that you may have heard of if you are in the self-help world is Dr. Carol Dweck's idea of the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. So the growth mindset is focused on what you learn during the process. When you set a goal and you have a growth mindset, you say, it's not about failing, it's not about whether I meet the end goal or not, even though obviously that is what you're working towards. You're also thinking about what you're learning along the way, what skills you're gaining, the person that you're becoming by sticking to your guns and not giving up. On the other side, when it comes to a fixed mindset, it's actually more about failing versus winning. It's about whether you are a failure. When you set a goal with a fixed mindset, all that matters is that you got to that end goal. It's about how fast can you get there, how can you get there, and if you don't get there or if you don't make it, that failure means that you're never going to take off, you're never going to be successful. It's about yes or no, not about the fact that it's a skill that you can acquire. A lot of times you think about it like you're either an artist or you're not an artist. You're either a good artist or you're a bad artist. You're either winning at what you want or you're failing at your entire life. And those dualistic ways of looking at your life and looking at yourself as who you are can be really damaging. And that's what you need to bring into your sense of identity, is when it comes to being an athlete, instead of just focusing on did we lose the game or did we win the game, think about, was I the best teammate I could be? Did I play as hard as I could play? Was I bringing everything that I could to be able to win this? And if I did, even if we didn't win, but I brought my absolute A game, that is the end goal. The end goal is being your best athlete, being your best self, not about just winning. And when you make that shift in mindset, and when you especially apply that to your identity and to who you are, it's limitless what you'll be able to achieve. And you honestly deserve so much better. You deserve so much more, and you deserve to feel like you are truly worthy every single day, inherently worthy. You deserve to believe that you are worthy, and I hope that this video made you believe that. Please let me know any of your feedback or any of your questions down in the comments below. I love you all so much. I'll put up more info on how to follow me above on the screen, and otherwise, I love you all. Thank you so much for watching, and happy healing.